These are the 6 reasons why criminals choose to attack and rob people. Are you gonna be the next one? I'm an ex-state criminal prosecutor, also a criminal defense attorney. I have been inside the mind of criminals who have been very open with me over my decade plus of experience, and thousands of people talking about why did they choose this particular person? Why did they not choose that particular person? So let's go inside the mind of a criminal. This video boils down the 5 ways that they target you and what you need to know to fight back. Number 1, by far, low situational awareness. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that somebody's walking down the street distracted, their head is in their phones, they've got earbuds in, whatever else, but they are not paying attention to their surroundings. They are in condition white. They have no idea what's coming around the corner, what danger is lurking behind them, or closing in from the other side of the street. This is where you do not want to be, but this is exactly what criminals are hunting for. Why do criminals want someone that's low situational awareness? Easy. Time. People who have no situational awareness lack the time to adequately respond. Why is that important? Well, it's pretty obvious. No time means no defense. No time means no time to draw a firearm. No time means no time to run, no time to respond, no time to think, process, or go. You are on the X, and that's exactly where they want you. And by the way, pulling out and using a firearm in self-defense is exactly what you want to be doing. About 94% of the time, no shots are fired when somebody pulls out a firearm in self-defense. So not every defensive gun use involves the discharge of a firearm. You're still using it because you're producing it, the bad guy sees it, but the bad guys, they're not as dumb as you think they are. They are getting out of there. Ladies, you are 250% more likely to be seriously injured if you go along with your attacker versus if you defend yourself with a firearm. You are 400%, ladies, 400% more likely to be injured if you physically resist an attacker without a gun compared to if you use a firearm in self-defense. Gentlemen, it's the same conclusion, but slightly different math. You're 140% more likely to be injured if you go along with your attacker when we're talking about a robbery versus using a firearm in self-defense. You are 150% more likely to be injured if you physically resist without a firearm versus if you resist with a gun. That's according to the Department of Justice National Crime Victimization Survey. And this happens a lot more than you think because according to the Center for Disease Control in 2013, when then President Barack Obama ordered a study on the defensive use of firearms in the United States, upwards of 3 million defensive gun uses occur annually in the United States every single year. About 31.1% of gun owners report having used a firearm in a defensive gun use scenario. And about 65.9% of those firearms used in defensive incidents are handguns. What's the bottom line here? Be aware of your surroundings. Don't look like a victim. Give yourself a fighting chance to draw your firearm that you've trained on how to use and you are legally carrying from an easily accessible location so that you can get it into the fight to save your life. Number 2, the second biggest tip that I got speaking to criminals for years and years and years, isolation. They don't want other people to be seeing what's going on because that is their reactionary gap time we're talking about. If other good Samaritans, if cops, if someone else like that were to get involved, they need to be able to have enough time to respond, typically by running away. That means that choosing someone who's isolated, who's away from the pack, who's in that alley, whatever the case might be, is going to be increasing their chances of making a successful strike. A couple quick tips that I got from criminals to help you stay alive. Don't do things like park where there's no lights. Don't do things like park on the other side of a building. For instance, if you go and shop at a Walmart that may be on a little bit of an edgier side of town, park in the main parking lot in front of the store, not the one that's maybe around or blocked down if you can help to avoid it. If you have to park in a parking garage, try to get back to your car and leave when there's going to be other people there. Don't be the last one out of the game or whatever it is that's holding you up and suddenly you're in an abandoned parking garage. Try to, of course, travel in groups. Try not to go alone. They are definitely hunting the lone target. And remember, when they're hunting, they're bringing numbers. They're not looking for a fair fight. They're not looking for a fight at all. They're looking for a victim. Remember, as the good guys, we never control when and where a fight occurs, but we can set the table, so to speak, and do everything possible to stack the deck with our preparedness, with our training, with our education, and with doing these small things that can actually mean quite a bit when it comes to adjusting your risk profile. I appreciate you tuning in. If you just found us, welcome. We love having you here. My name's Tom Grieve. I'm an ex-state prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. I'd love to hear your thoughts about all this. What did you find to be the most interesting? And be sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to be sharing some real-life criminal conversation stories that I've had from back in another lifetime. I know you will find them relevant. So, back to the show. Number 3, predictable patterns. I know I'm not talking about evading some sort of Jason Bourne style assassin or all that kind of stuff like changing your route to work. If you're a VIP or someone who might be the target of kidnapping or abduction, you're not what we're talking about right now. I'm talking about the fact that when you go into a mall or a store, anybody who's watching you leave that car knows that, reasonably speaking, within the next half hour to few hours, you're going to come back to that car. And there's a good chance, especially if you're going into a place like a grocery store, that you're going to be coming out, pushing a cart, carrying stuff, maybe on your phone. You're going to be distracted and you're going to, at some point, have to load that into your car, which will divide your attention as you focus on the activity at hand. A parking lot provides ample hiding spots for a bad guy or multiple different bad guys to be able to make sure that you never see them coming. And then they'll wait until your back is turned. But all of this is keyed off the notion of predictable patterns. Now, here's the bad news. When you go into a store, you likely can't help but come back out and go back to your car, unless you've got burner cars or something like that that you can use. But here's a couple key things. If you get a bad feeling, there's nothing stopping you from turning around and going right back into the store and even watching from inside to see what's going on. A lot of stores and shopping malls do offer some sort of security, and of course 911 might be minutes away, but you've got that time from inside the store. If for whatever reason you don't get that feeling, but you still need to go back to your car, okay, that doesn't mean that as you carry your groceries or something like that, you have to use your dominant firearm hand. In other words, if you're concealed carrying on your waistband, on your, say, 3 o'clock side as a right-hander, don't carry everything with your right hand. Keep your phone in your pocket, keep your gun hand free, and keep your left hand the one that's pushing the cart or something like that with your head on the swivel. You'd be surprised how many people I have spoken to who have said that they have called off attacks because someone looked way too ready. The most essential part to number 3 is the fact that you understand when you are doing a predictable pattern, because the bad guys know. And if you understand how they are hunting, then you will understand when you are at highest risk of when you're going to that water hole and all the lions and all the hyenas are hunting for you. You got to understand where your water holes are. Leaving a store from your car and getting back into that car, that is a water hole. Be vigilant, be alert. That is when you are at most at risk. Number 4, high reward, low risk. You see, bad guys want to play the lottery, but they want to play the lottery that they think they're going to win way more times than you or I are going to win when we go down to the gas station to get our Powerball or something like that. What am I talking about? Most people carry something to pay, something to call, and something to drive. Okay, something to pay, credit cards, cash, something like that, something to call, that $500 to $1,000 plus cell phone that most people are carrying these days, and something to drive, a car, especially if you're out and about in America, outside of a few particularly urban downtown major metropolitan centers. Odds are you've got those 3 things. Why is that relevant? Because all 3 of those things can be fenced and sold on the secondary market. You are carrying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to a criminal who knows how to leverage it. Obviously, you only attract more attention and jack up that risk reward profile for criminals if you're doing things like wearing fancy looking watches, things like that. I'm not saying that your broke homeless person never gets robbed. I'm just saying that when they get robbed, they're not getting robbed for the same reasons why you are. You're getting robbed because they think that you're not going to fight back. You're unaware of what's going on, you're isolated, and a few other factors, but most of all, they think that you're worth something, and this is going to be worth the risk. If you discreetly carry valuables in public, and I understand that that's not for everyone, but if you discreetly carry valuables in public, you're going to be doing a lot to lower that profile as you go, so to speak, gray man out and about in public. Gray man meaning you're not the person with the flashy watch, you're not the person with the flashy this, flashy that. You're just kind of the gray man that blends in. I once recall asking a guy who'd been in and out of prison a lot of his life, starting as a juvenile, What made you choose a particular liquor store to rob? When I was looking back on his record. And he just kind of threw his head back and laughed and smiled. And he looked at me and he said, well, Tom, that's the one I knew that had all the cash in the register. That store could have done a lot more to make sure that their average till amount was a lot lower, because guess what? The lions are paying attention to what's in those registers, and they're paying attention to what's on your wrist and what's in your pocket. Number 5, no immediate consequences. Consequences come from 2 different buckets. One bucket, the guys in blue. We're talking about 911, response times, all that kind of stuff. Odds are, if you're sticking a gun, a knife, or whatever in someone's face and demanding cash, demanding property, you've been locked up a few times. You understand response times. Heck, in some of these neighborhoods, they understand the response times better than sometimes people in law enforcement and certainly prosecutors do, in my experience. They know, like a ticking clock in the back of their mind, how long they have to act and get out of there. But you know what they're more afraid of than going to jail? In a study, 57% of felons surveyed said that they feared armed citizens more than the police. And there's one thing that bad guys really don't like. It's consequences. Another time I was talking to another career criminal. This was 10 plus years ago now. I noticed he had some armed robberies on his record. And I just asked him about the events, because me being a firearm guy, I'd love to be able to get inside a criminal's mind to understand, hey, what made you choose this or that? So I would sometimes look at their record and ask about past cases, because at the end of the day, this is years behind them. They don't care about that. And of course, they're trying to play me as well, so they're usually happy to go along with it. So this one guy, he had this armed robbery, and I asked him, so what was the deal? So he robbed some people. It kind of broad daylight. It was late afternoon, early evening, and it was on a major metropolitan downtown street. I think it was in Milwaukee somewhere, as I recall. So I asked him, did you just wake up that morning and decide to rob someone, and you just robbed the first person that you found? And I won't repeat exactly what he said. This is a family program. But the gist to it went something like this, of he had a pretty good idea he was going to rob someone that afternoon, but he had no idea who. And he was just kind of walking around looking for people, camped out a little bit, was watching people pass by. And he was going through his thought process about how he was disqualifying people. No, not that one. No, not those ones. And people, it's everything I'm talking about right here. Oh, the group of people, don't want that. Oh, there's a cop on the other side of the street right now. I'm not going to do anything at this particular moment. Now, this incident really happened before smartphones became a thing, so there weren't any cell phones to be talking about, but there were CD Walkmans and all that kind of stuff. And he was talking about the fact of those are sorts of people that he liked, because he also thought that they carried more cash. And then finally, he found his target of a youngish looking guy who was all alone and was walking around, kind of distracted, looked a little bit lost, and was just kind of aimlessly walking with his heads up, looking at buildings and this and that. Perfect target to sneak up on from behind, which it sounds like is exactly what he did. These 5 points I brought up, they're not something I read out of a book. These are something that I have lived and I have seen as an ex-state prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. These 5 points are verified by data points of talking to Lord knows how many criminals over the years. I have seen these play out. Don't be a statistic. Understand where your watering holes are. Understand where your funnel points are, where if you're walking on a big sidewalk, but all funnels down to one spot and there's a couple guys hanging out right there, that may not be good for you. Understand concepts like this, and I'd be happy to walk you through. Hit that like button. Let me know if this is valuable to you by commenting down below that you want me to do deeper dives on stuff like this based on my real world experience. I'd be happy to do so if enough people are interested in it. But I cannot emphasize enough, these are real world tips I'm giving you, not something that I just got out of a book. Our quote of the day, to reward those of you who made it this far, comes from Heraclitus, Greek thinker philosopher, who wrote, "You cannot step twice into the same river, for it's not the same river, and you are not the same man." That is absolutely true every single time you walk down the street. Keep that in mind. I appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to joining you in the discussion below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.